viewers. Welcome to another program among the several programs that we'll have to be running that relate to preparation for KCSE exams. Now, we are having our focus on poetry, which is paper 2 question 3. In the 3 last years KCSE, we've had a narrative coming once and a poem coming twice. That means there is every likelihood that this year's KCSE 2022 is going to be a poem. And therefore, it becomes important that we have emphasis laid on the analysis of as many poems as we can, because the more we look at the more poems, the better we become when it comes to breaking down the information presented and getting to answer the questions adequately. With us, we have the poem Slum, and I'll use it with the sample questions in trying to make a speculation of what you can expect when it comes to questions in paper 2. So I'll take you quickly through the poem as a way of going to address ourselves to some of these questions. So there we go. Slum day. The monotonous lap of the blacksmith sounds. Long shadows zebra the roads. Partners stretch and yawn. Their girls catch up on sleep. Dew lies still on the piled maize, and children tumble their way to school. The vendors squat behind their wares. Careful spenders have enough food. The careless flounder in the shade. Press emptiness against worn grass. The pious wash and pray. Heat steals the birds, the crickets sing. Smoke curls to stifle the quiet air. The lamps are lit. Music begins to play as bars begin to fill. The girls waken and parade. Children quarrel their way to bed. Life has been won from another day. So at least I've taken you through that poem, but it is not sufficient to read a poem once and rush to the questions. You can go to the questions, just have a look at them, have a feel of what they have, and then go back to another reading. And this second reading will help you in breaking information in terms of stanzas. You look at stanza 1, get to see what does it have. Go to stanza 2, look at what it has, and then look at stanza 3. Once you'll be having pieces of information on each of them, and then you consolidate these pieces of information, definitely you'll be having a better understanding on what the question 1 is wanting. It's asking, what is the subject matter of this poem? So that's as good as asking, what is the theme? What is this person wanting to address? So we have to take a short time and try to run through it and maybe get to have a gist of what each stanza contains. Now, the monotonous lap of the blacksmith sounds, long shadows zebra the roads, partners stretch and yawn, their girls catch up on sleep, dew lies still on the piled maize, and children tumble their way to school. Stanza 1 is pointing to early morning. Everybody is up, running for an activity that is supposed to be giving them something at the end of the day. Like line 1 there is talking about the blacksmiths. We are talking about people who are working in the informal sector. Each of them must be trying to do something so that at the end of the day they have something to take home. And then the shadows there telling us the early morning, which of course you'll be expecting when the sun is rising. The shadows are normally cast and they're long. So those shadows are cutting the road and kind of bringing in that zebra illustration that they're giving there. And we have others who are getting to sleep this time, meaning they must have not been asleep. Now they're getting to sleep. And then we have these children who are tumbling their way to school. And of course, going to school meaning they are preparing themselves for the future. So, and this future is only to be got through going to school. That is what we make of stanza 1. And therefore, we're able to see that this is morning hours. And all the people are out for some activity. Those who are not out for the activity, like those who are about to catch on sleep, must have been on activity in the night. We can presume that. And when we go to stanza 2, it is still people on activities of earning their daily livelihoods. We have vendors who are squatting behind their wares. They have items they are selling, and they have to squat and patiently wait for buyers to come and buy from them. And of course, there is a mention of the people who have something to eat. And then the next line, giving a contrast of those who may have squandered the opportunities or those who have nothing to eat. And of course, how they have to spend their afternoon. And of course, the other last two lines are talking about the heat of the day and how it is making some birds to remain immobile, and as well as you get the crickets doing the singing. And this is actually presenting mid-morning. It is mid-morning. Those who have activities to do, they are doing. Those who are not doing it, they cannot do anything but just lie under some shades. And this is what we are present. And others as well who could be going to worship. The holy are doing the worshipping. And that is how we get to the second stanza. And then we go to the stanza 3. It is now evening, because you talk about the smoke that curls to stifle the quiet air. In the informal settlement, that's the slum, so to say, people have to do cooking using firewood, and everybody who's been up and around different activities are breaking up to get something that they can prepare for the families before they get to bed. And that is what is happening. And as people are getting to this, we are talking about the lamps that are lit and the music beginning to play. So we have a lot of activity that is taking place in the evening to the night. Evening into the night. And you notice that it is a blend of a lot of activities. We have those who've been working in the day and they're back home to go and prepare meals for their families and that. And then we have the lamps that are lit. Of course, we're talking about entertainment joints, where these people will have to be there drinking and enjoying themselves, having worked the whole day. But again, we have to see those girls we saw in stanza 1 who are catching up sleep. Now they are up. They are into these entertainment joints to try and be part of the people who are entertaining the night. You're finding them in the nightclubs. And then we get to the lower part of it all, where we have the children who are quarreling to bed. Possibly they're quarreling because they didn't have enough to eat. But somewhat, it ends in a happy note, in the sense that we are told that at least a day has been won. It has been a struggle, but successfully they've seen the day come to an end. So in summary, is stanza 1 giving us the morning hours, stanza 2 giving us the mid-morning, and of course stanza 3 giving us the evening into the night. And that is, in a way, in a nutshell, trying to point to a life in the informal settlement. This is the routine of life, of struggle in the informal settlement. So if you look at question 1, what is the subject matter of this poem? From the illustrations I've given here, it is evident that we'll have to be talking about a people struggling to make a living in an informal settlement. And informal settlement, we know a number of them that exist in this country or elsewhere. And of course, we are talking about people whose economic endowment is not to the expectations. And they are strugglers, and therefore we get them struggling. So it is the struggle to survive. And we see all manner of those, like the blacksmiths, we have the vendors, and even these girls who waken and parade. It is part of some kind of business they're in, though it is prohibited or not legitimately acceptable, but it has been part of society, and we are seeing them out to earn a living. Each of these people is trying to earn a living. So it's all about the struggle to earn a living in an informal settlement. So struggle for survival. For survival in an informal settlement. That cannot go without saying that you must be mentioning the blacksmiths. You can mention the vendors who are squatting there, as well as the girls who waken and parade. We know, of course, what they are going to do there is part of the things that we may be expecting in a nightclub in this particular setup. Who is the persona in the above poem? A persona is this person from whose eyes we get the information, or the voice that is giving us the details that a poem is containing. This person describing all this is termed as the persona. So it's like in this particular poem, the persona is an observer. This person is observing all that is happening. It's like this person stood at a point and wanted to see how a day looks like in the slum. So he's looking at, describing everything, the morning hours coming to midday and evening. So here we're talking about an observer. He's giving details of all that is happening here, and you note that he is not a party to this. He's simply non-partisan. He's just taking some elevated point to enable him or her get to see all that is happening. And so this is an observer. We can't give any other description of who the persona is apart from just understanding that this is an observer. He's observing all these activities. Number 3 there, which has to do with the identification and explanation of the poetic devices. There are a number of them, but it is also imperative that you write them based on their strengths. Don't simply pick any small stylistic devices when we have other stronger ones. It is important that you get started with the stronger stylistic devices and then you move down to those that are less dominant in the poem. Now, one of the stylistic devices that you can talk about here is personification. Personification is the awarding of animate qualities to the non-animate. There are things that are not humans, things that are not living things, but they are given the qualities of living things. So those ones are some of the things that we see here. For example, we are told about heat that steals the birds, the crickets sing. So heat itself is been given the human qualities. It has stopped the birds, meaning it is too hot. Birds are not running. All of them are perched up on trees and they're waiting for the temperatures to go down. So here, heat has been given the human quality that it has stopped the birds. And again, the cricket singing. You know, singing is purely animate and of course human beings. But when you're told of cricket singing, well, that one is also part of the personification. We are told of the smoke that is stifling the quiet air. So that stifling is to disturb. It is disturbing the quiet air. So it has also been given that quality. So that one is personification. And the best way of writing this is you write personification and make sure that you are quoting the particular line and saying how personification is identified in that particular line. That is one of the leading styles that we can have here. We can talk about alliteration as another potential style. Alliteration is the successive realization of consonantal sounds, successive realization of consonantal sounds in a line of a poem. When these sounds follow one another closely, they are called alliteration. For example, we have bars begin, ba, ba, bars begin. So we have B and B for these words, bars and begin. They are following one another, and in that case they are giving us alliteration. We could have another one here. Lamps lit, la, la, that is alliteration. I'm sure you're able to get several others there in the name of alliteration. So we identify and illustrate. At times they'll be telling you to tell the importance. So this one is also important to know that this is paper 3, and therefore things like talking about musicality do not come in. It has to do with an explanation that is relating to what the poem is carrying. What are they doing there? So let's be a little clear when it comes to what we are giving as the importance of these stylistic aspects without necessarily getting to address ourselves to things like musicality, because in this case we must be talking about the subject. So that's how it works. Like now for personification here, it is trying to help us evoke an image of how it would actually be. You're trying to create a mental picture of how the heat must have been intense in that afternoon. And when you're talking about alliteration, this one also is the part of the musicality. You know, we've talked about best words in best order for maximum effect. And that's why things like alliteration will be coming there for that maximum effect on the information that is getting presented there. It is very possible that we have things like other styles like play, day, which is rhyme. Rhyme is also a style here, which we would look at. And of course, it is therefore the element of musicality there. And of course, the musicality is what makes a poem different from prose. So actually, we've talked about personification, we've talked about alliteration, we've talked about rhyme. So rhyme, alliteration, and personification as the 3 elements. If you are to talk about mood, mood itself is the prevailing atmosphere in a poem. A poem has its own atmosphere, its surrounding, and the surrounding is characteristically from the words that are used in that poem. So that the use of words, that combination and the kind of arrangement that is there is giving us the mood, the prevailing atmosphere. And this prevailing atmosphere can be described, of course, by the use of adjectives. We don't use any other word. Like for this particular poem, this is a slum area, an informal settlement. People are struggling to make a living, but we see them succeed. The underscoring statement we get on the last line is very significant. It is informing us that people are succeeding to make a living irrespective of the hurdles they meet in this informal settlement. That is the bottom line of everything. So here we'll be talking about optimistic mood. Optimistic mood. You can get a mark for that, and then illustrate it using the last line. You'll illustrate it, you simply quote it and say that at the end of it all, everybody is succeeded, the day has come to an end, like the children who tumbled to school are back home, though they struggled over that food, but at least they put something in their stomachs, and somewhat they'll go to sleep, albeit with not to maximum fulfillment. So optimistic mood is what we make in this poem. Explanation of the meaning of words. This is another area which all of us must be aware of and expect to be asked. Because when a poem is as many lines as this one, they may just decide to pick any 2 lines and tell you to explain them or paraphrase them, explain what you think they mean. Long shadows zebra the road. So once you see this, you understand that once it is in the morning, when the sun is rising, the shadows tend to cast long. And so maybe there were objects next to the roads, and with the rising sun, it allowed these shadows to cast their way across the road, and therefore creating something like a zebra. And you know, zebra is stripped. So it's talking about the shadows cast by the rising sun in the morning. That is what it means. And then children quarrel their way to bed. Yeah, this one means that the children didn't have enough as they went to bed. This is an example of what we can have in paper 2. And therefore, I expect us to do a few more in the subsequent videos to get to see what kind of questions can be there. But I expect they won't be exactly the same. Like now we had mood. Maybe another one will be having tone or attitude or any other of the areas that we mentioned in the introduction. Therefore, I look forward to getting reactions or comments on this particular video. And if you've liked it, kindly give it a thumbs up so that you're notified whenever there is a new video in production. Thank you very much. Have it well.